and welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes, eager as always to dive into the latest advancements shaping our digital world. And today, I'm honoured to welcome a very special guest. His name is Horacio Barakat, and he's the Head of Digital Innovation for Capital Markets at Broadridge Financial Solutions. And under Horacio's leadership, Broadridge has been trailblazing in the realm of distributed ledger technology, especially after implementing this into their DL Repo platform. And this platform is a paragon of DLT integration in finance because it's now hit a stunning $1 trillion a month in total transaction. That is what put them on my radar, set off my tech spidey sensors. So I've invited Horacio to come on here today, share his expert insights into the new DLT use cases in finance, and also provide an in-depth analysis on the use of DLT for repo transactions. I also want to explore adoption in this space and also broader applications of blockchain in finance and bond trading. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York, where he's waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Horacio Barakat. I am with Broadridge, a financial technology company that provides technology solutions to banks, asset managers, and issuers. And I specifically work, call it the intersection between product and innovation, creating new solutions and product for our clients, leveraging new technologies like DLT and AI. In particular, I'm head of digital innovation for capital markets and run our distributed ledger repo platform that we launched a couple of years ago to great success.
And we will have people listening and hearing about Broadridge for the very first time. So can you tell me a little bit more about the company and also your role as head of digital innovation for capital markets there and the kind of work that you're doing? What's the average day look like for you?
Yeah, so Broadridge is one of the key providers of technology to the capital markets, issuers, asset management firms in the world. Over $5 billion in revenue, one of the largest fintechs out there. We provide core solutions that are kind of core to market infrastructure for clients to actually perform critical tasks like trading, processing transactions, selling transactions, communicating with their investors, with allowing issuers to communicate with all the constituencies. So we are basically a key part of the market infrastructure.
And before you came on the podcast, I was reading about Broadridge's DL Repo platform that has been incredibly successful, surpassing a volume of more than $1 trillion a month in total transactions, which is just phenomenal. But can you tell me a bit more about that platform and also elaborate on how it works and what do you think has contributed to its success? Yeah.
So, yes, it's been very successful. That one of the key things that this proves is that DLT is capable of processing significant volume at scale, basically institutional scale production, which is what Broadridge is all about. We are, as we set out to do, our platform basically transforming market infrastructure for the repo market, the way that repos are processed, the way they are settled. And in its simplest terms, if we break down the technology and what it does, right, basically leverages two key features. Number one, it is the smart contract technology. And number two is allowing for the digital representation of collateral. So what it does is basically via the smart contract tools, basically synchronize the workflows between the counterparties and its agents in a very complex workflows that the repo market requires. And then it creates velocity of collateral that is used in those repo transactions by representing it digitally and actually allowing for the use of collateral when you need it, where you need it. And what has contributed immensely to the success of the platform is that we have identified several use cases within the broad repo market that can bring significant and immediate benefits to clients. And that is one of the key reasons for our success. It is obviously we have big aspirations of bigger transformations, right? As we all do in the financial services industry. But finding use cases that clients can actually reap benefits immediately from the technology and start activating and start expanding its use, I think it's the key element of success for us.
And it's worth highlighting, you guys handle millions of trades a day involving trillions of dollars, delivering essential communications for over, I think, something like 5,000 brands and manage shareholding voting in 90 countries. And you've also onboarded significant financial institutions such as USB. So I'm curious, from the outside looking in, how does this implementation process work for such large institutions? And what kind of feedback have you received on this DL Repo platform?
Yeah. Well, the feedback has been great, and that is why we have onboarded large global institutions to our platform, and the reason for that, obviously the great feedback comes from what I said before, which is clients are getting immediate benefits from the solution, right? But I think the other angle of it is. One of the guiding principles, as we always have within Broadridge, and that translates also to this platform, it is the implementation or onboarding to the platform has to be non-intrusive to our clients, basically reducing the risk of implementation. And that is a key guiding principle that we follow, because as soon as you start introducing risks and complexities, it is, clients tend to shy away or tend to be a little bit slower, because obviously as a risk-averse industry, for the right reasons, right, it is very difficult to introduce change. So I think the less risky you make it, the better you are. And how do you break down that non-intrusiveness or simplicity is basically minimizing changes to front office and back office systems. That is number one. You cannot bring significant change to existing infrastructure. And number two is basically leveraging existing market infrastructure that your clients and the industry is already connected to, as opposed to replacing it. It's just connecting it, making it seamless for our technology to operate within market infrastructure as it is today. And that is one of the key reasons why clients keep coming to be onboarded onto the platform.
And I suspect for many people listening, especially in this risk-adverse industry, this technology is often a little bit intimidating and daunting. So just to help bring to life and bring more people on board, encourage adoption, etc., are you able to share any insights into some use cases of distributed ledger technologies in finance that you've been actively exploring? Absolutely.
And I'm happy you bring this up, right? That the maybe the technology was seen as something that was very risky, something that was kind of out of left field. Right now, the technology is part of the mainstream, right? And I would usually tend to say that you shouldn't care whether this is distributed ledger technology or not, right? The technology works for some use cases and in some areas, and it brings significant benefits to some problem statements, and it cannot be used, or it is not needed, or it is not useful in other areas. So I would say similar. It is just one. It's just another piece of technology that we as an industry need to leverage where needed, right? I believe that the one particular and most powerful aspects of the technology is the application of smart contracts, which I think hasn't picked up yet. Obviously, our platform is based on smart contract, right? But I believe that smart contracts are going to be transformative to capital markets. Basically, the way you can actually synchronize workflows between counterparties and their agents, and that is a lot of the complexity in capital markets. The highly complicated workflows and the many parties that are involved in those transactions. Let's call it multilateral workflows, and the ability that smart contract has to synchronize all those workflows, mutualizing them, and then auto executing tasks when needed and as needed that is a very powerful piece of technology that we are just starting to tap its potential.
And for people that are listening outside of this industry, I think just to make sure we don't leave anybody behind, a repurchase agreement or repo is a short-term agreement to sell securities in order to buy them back at a slightly higher price. So that's how it works in the traditional world. But can you explain how DLT is being used for repo transactions, and also what advantages this technology is bringing to this area of finance?
Yeah. So starting with the benefits, right? So the platform brings significant operational efficiencies during that, due to that synchronization of the workflows, and obviously, given that you're basically improving and simplifying the entire workflow of our repo transaction, it certainly has the ability to reduce costs, not only operational costs, but settlement costs, and also failing costs. When a transaction fails to sell, there's costs associated to them. So reduction in fails actually bring hard dollar savings to the counterparties. And I believe the most significant benefit it is improved capital velocity. So obviously, given the counterparties, via the synchronization of the workflow and the simplification of the workflow, improve liquidity and collateral velocity to the counterparties, where creating flexible settlement cycles that you can actually agree to settle a transaction at a time that is convenient to you and your counterparty, and that flexibility brings significant possibilities to improve your capital velocity. So how the technology works realistically in a repo transaction, you said it very well. It is if you think about a repo transaction, a transaction between two counterparties, one counterparty is basically selling collateral and receiving cash, and the other counterparty is the reverse, basically sending cash and receiving the collateral. So, and that happens intraday, overnight, or during a period of days, right? So as you can imagine, the transaction is very complex, and then but the transaction unwinds, basically collateral goes the other way and cash is refunded, right? So it requires a lot of synchronization, as I said, and it's very complex. So how we make the process better is basically starting from the execution of the transaction when the counterparties agreed to the trade. Basically, we capture all the information from both counterparties and basically make sure that from that moment on, the counterparties are always synchronized. Every action during the life of the transaction that happens for that trade, the counterparty is aware of it and has to agree or disagree with it, but they're always in sync. They're always knowing what the other counterparty is doing to make sure that the transaction flows from execution all the way through settlement. The other piece of it is we are representing collateral on the platform. So basically, the smart contract move the collateral or immobilize the collateral when needed, creating that velocity of the collateral and creating that flexibility of settlement of the trade.
And I'm curious, broadly speaking, how are you seeing blockchain technology impacting finance and bond trading right now? And what other transformations have you seen or indeed expect to see in the months and years ahead?
It's an interesting question. I don't think at this point that technology is changing the way fixed income is traded, right? It is not an execution venue type of technology, at least at this point, right? But what it is certainly doing, it is bringing the possibility to actually increase liquidity to other asset classes, right? By the ability to digitize and represent different type of assets onto any platform, right? It is actually giving the ability for those assets, for that collateral, for those securities, to increase their velocity, to be able to trade and move more seamlessly within between counterparties and within the industry. And that is something that obviously is one of the core tenets of our platform. But I think that concept can certainly be applied to many other type of transactions. So increased liquidity of assets and velocity of assets, it is one of the key it is one of the key attributes of this technology. And number two, what the technology is doing is facilitating different type of transactions that that currently or before were complicated, right? And very easy, but very difficult to execute given existing market infrastructure. A key example of that is intraday repos. That's one of the type of trades that we are processing and executing on our platform, we just launched it several months ago, and it's getting a lot of interest from the market because the technology allows for that synchronization of the workflows. If you think about an intraday transaction where the transaction has to open and close and revert in the span of an hour, half an hour, 45 minutes, right? It requires a lot of synchronization and a lot of speed in the processing of those transactions. So not that you couldn't do intraday transactions today, but it's very risky, very convoluted to achieve. The technology basically allows for that transaction to be executed in a very simple and very safe way. So it is facilitating new type of trades into the industry.
And as a leader of the implementation of distributed ledger technologies, I would ask you to maybe gaze into your virtual crystal ball here. But how do you see this technology evolving in the future, particularly in the realm of finance? Do you have any particular strong beliefs on where this is heading?
Yes. Most importantly, on the way that it is going to play out. I mean, I think the implementation of the technology is playing out the way that we thought it was going to, 5 years ago when we started on this journey, right? It was never going to be a big bang transformation like some people thought it was going to be, right? And again, as I said, in a very risk-averse industry where change is very difficult to introduce because of the nature of the industry itself. The application of the technology started in very specific areas, right? Where the technology can bring significant and immediate benefits. And examples of those are the repo markets, the securities lending industry, trade finance, right? Starting to see some movement in the equities, in the equity space. So it's going to be very specific to specific pockets of the industry, and then we will expand its use, right? I would say the compounding effects of innovation and expansion of the technology. Once we look back 5 years from now, looking back, we're going to see, well, we certainly transformed the industry, but it's going to be at a moderate pace that the industry can take change.
And the success of any technology or emerging technology is often determined by the adoption that it is able to secure. So on that side of things, what challenges and also opportunities do you see in this continuing adoption of distribution ledger technologies across the financial sector? Is there anything you can share around that?
Yeah, I think the challenge and the opportunity is pretty much the same. It kind of the same, different sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
It is seeing and understanding the technology for what it is as another technology that can bring benefits to specific type of transactions, specific areas of the industry. But it is already mainstream. The fact that people still think, well, DLT, and they associate that with crypto, they associate that with other things. I think that is one of the key challenges. Once you see the technology for what it is, that you can actually use it to improve your process, to increase liquidity of collateral, to synchronize workflows and eliminate reconciliations, eliminate fails of your transactions. Once as people start seeing that and start using it the right way, then you can see significant increased adoption as opposed to relating it to other areas of the market, right? As I said, with crypto. And one of the areas that probably will pick it up very soon is anything that is related to multilateral workflows, right? Anything that requires synchronization between counterparties, everything that is that could benefit from auto execution of tasks. That is what the technology basically shines, and areas on the market that need that would definitely pick it up in very, very soon.
And I appreciate you probably can't share too much, but for anyone listening that is one of your customers or have been following your work closely, is there anything you can share around your plans for the future?
Absolutely. So we are looking at the technology just in its component pieces, right? Where we can use, as I said, the smart contract technology that we have, the digital representation of securities that we have created, right? And leveraging those technologies that we have into other areas. And what we're working on right now is working on a matching platform. The matching of all sorts of transactions is, it is very complicated, because of the multi-party matching that needs to happen between counterparties. And again, the technology is gonna provide significant benefits to all types of transactions, not just repos or fixed income. And the other one is improving the workflows around securities lending. So those are other set of highly complicated workflows that the combination of smart contracts and the digital representation of securities can bring significant benefits to. So those are two examples of areas that we're focusing on.
Exciting times ahead. And earlier in our conversation, I did mention how challenging it can be keeping up with the pace of technological change in this digital age that we find ourselves. And there is an almost real pressure on every single one of us to be in a state of continuous learning. So I've got to ask, where or how do you self-educate? Is there anything you could share around how you keep up to speed with everything?
Yes. So you're right. Technology has been the key driver of change and innovation in the financial services industry for the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years. So keeping up to date with technology, it is key to keep up with the financial services industry. And I think Broadridge is very good at providing tools for training, particularly online platforms like LinkedIn, Coursera, right? So those are the areas that you can find a lot of experts, and Broadridge is very good at providing us access to it to keep us up to date. And actually, as important is podcasts like yours, where you can get introduced very quickly to topics and then do deep dives on. But keeping up to date with podcast and leaders in the industry, it is the way that I do it.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that would just like to find out more information about Broadridge Financial Solutions, maybe learn a little bit more through some of the content that you're putting out there, what's the best way of starting and also the best way of contacting your team? Where would you point everyone listening?
I would point everybody to the Broadridge website. It has all the content that we discussed today, examples of platform solutions. Our distributed ledger repo platform is highlighted there, as many others. So I would direct them to our website.
I know that many different URLs there. Could I just ask you to share that website address?
Yes, broadridge.com.
Awesome. You've got a .com. That's refreshing to hear. There's so many different ones now. And I cannot thank you enough for coming on, sharing some of your expert insights regarding new distributed ledger technology use cases in finance, and also providing an in-depth analysis on the use of DLT for repo transaction, and also the expansion and implementation of DLT in your DL Repo platform, which has now surpassed a volume of $1 trillion a month in total transactions, which is just phenomenal. But more than anything, just thank you for coming on here, talking about it in a language that everyone can understand, and hopefully we can help adoption as a part of that. But thanks again for sharing it with me.
Thank you very much, Neil.
$1 trillion. Wowzers. I really do hope you enjoyed hearing from Horacio as much as I did today. And I think his leadership at Broadridge Financial Solutions and their work in applying DLT in finance seems to be truly revolutionizing the industry. And it does fascinate me to witness the power of distributed ledger technology, especially in the transformation of repo transactions and the enhancement of financial workflows. And as we talked about in the interview there, this is a risk-adverse industry, so it makes it even more intriguing, the speed of technological change. And Horacio did emphasize there, understanding and leveraging these emerging technologies is critical in the dynamic world of finance now. So I do encourage you to check out Broadridge's website for more information on their work and examples of their platform solutions. But if you've got anything you'd like to share with me, if you want to come on the podcast, if you want to share your story, if you've just got a question for me or the guest, or want to leave an opinion on anything you've heard today, simply email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. So a big thank you to Horacio for sharing his invaluable insights. And as always, thank you, my listeners, for sitting in and joining me every single day of the week. It means more than I could ever begin to tell you. So thank you so much for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.